love that. My name is Ellen Cassidy, and I'm an enthusiastic Al-Anon. And actually, I was speaking to get people into this program long before 1984, just by the way I lived my life. I'm delighted to be here. I got here just early enough that Joanne could take me on a tour of the city, which didn't take very long. We went from the north side to the south side before I even knew what happened. You have a beautiful, beautiful city, even in the middle of winter, and I'm delighted to be here. I introduced myself as an Al-Anon, and I want to explain that, which is not necessarily a good sign. Explaining things is exactly how I got to Al-Anon. I always thought if I could get you to listen long enough, then you'd understand. Then you would see it my way, and you'd know that it really was the better way, and you'd agree. So I find it one of God's little jokes that he now sends me around to all sorts of places saying, go ahead, sweetie, explain. You're so good at it. And tonight is your turn in the barrel. Lucky, lucky you. Al-Anon is not what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know there was such a thing as an Al-Anon until I got here. What I always, from the time I first had a conscious thought, I think, what I wanted to be when I grew up was I wanted to be somebody's wife and somebody's mother. And I was going to be the best wife he ever had, and I was going to be the best mother those children ever had. I find it interesting today to look at that and realize that I never wanted to be me. I just wanted to be the best for somebody else. It's taken me years in Al-Anon to want to be the best me I can be. When I got to Al-Anon, I didn't want to be here. Of course, I didn't want to be anywhere. I always wanted to be somewhere else with someone else doing something else because I was pretty sure it'd be more fun than wherever I was. And I didn't want to be here when I got here. I decided, as a matter of fact, after I'd been in Al-Anon a little while, that really what I really wanted to be was I really wanted to be alcoholic. Oh, it looked to me, for one thing, like alcoholic women had a lot more fun than we did. And apparently my husband preferred them. So I just decided I'd be alcoholic. Now, I didn't want to drink to become alcoholic for a couple of reasons. Number one, I needed to be alcoholic that afternoon. And the other reason, honestly, was I wasn't sure that if I let myself drink all I wanted to drink that I actually would stop. So I decided it was just safer if I solved that problem the same way I solved so many other problems. Solved. There are quotes around that. Solved so many other problems in my life. Actually, the problems in my life have never been the problems in my life. The problems in my life are the solutions I come up with to deal with what's going on in my life. The way I decided to become alcoholic was the way I did everything else. I thought if you changed how it looked on the outside, whether it was my outside or your outside, but if we changed how it looked on the outside, it would change how it felt on the inside. So really, all I needed to do was look alcoholic, and that would be enough, Well, first I got to tell you that alcoholic women saved my life. I adore alcoholic women. Of course I do. I love alcoholics. That's why I'm here. I will always love alcoholics. That's why I have to stay here. I think other people are so boring, 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 boring. I love alcoholics. I love that living on the edge sort of a thing, Whether it's their edge I'm living on or my edge. Anyway, most Al-Anons, and I'm speaking for most of us, but only because I can. I'm up here. We don't come here surrendered. We come here looking for one more thing that might work. Something we haven't tried. We really don't come here looking for recovery. We come here looking for relief. And we get enough relief, and we don't have to stay very long. We can go once we get enough relief. What happens, though, is life offers you chance after chance to surrender. Life offers you chance after chance to need this program at depth. And if you don't know whether or not you've surrendered, I am here to tell you you have not. It will leave no doubt in your mind when that has happened. And if you just hang here long enough, your chance will come. And if you miss that chance, it's okay. There's another one right behind it. It'll be a little louder, a little bigger, a little more painful than the first one, but that's okay. Miss that one, there's another one right behind it. I'd been in Al-Anon 3 years before I had my chance to surrender. And when that happened to me, I slid into the deep, dark, big black hole. And I didn't have to explain that to alcoholic women. They understood. They had been there. And one of them took me aside one day and she said, "Honey, those Al-Anons mean well." They really have no idea. She said, "You need 448 through 452. That's in the old book. Every day for a month." And I said, "Yes, ma'am," and I did everything she told me to do. Now, having told you that I adore alcoholic women and they saved my life, I need to tell you that the day I decided to become alcoholic, what I did was put on skin-tight jeans and stiletto heels. In my area, that's how they look. Well, I made a couple of discoveries in that little experiment. One of them is I don't like anything that controls me like those pants did. And number two, Al-Anons are really doomed to sensible shoes. We're really built for speed, and not for looks. If you love an alcoholic, you got to be ready to go in a heartbeat, And you could kill yourself in those shoes, man. But the place, this is another example of God's fabulous sense of humor. The place where I decided to do my little experiment was at the Crested Butte Mountain Conference in Crested Butte, Colorado, where I go every summer. Yeah. And with 600 of my closest friends. And I did it at that particular conference. This was like the first or second, I think maybe in the first Crested Butte, actually. And I got to spend the week with 4 people who had between them 125 years of Al-Anon. And this was back in 1988, I believe it was, 87 or 88. No, 84. Anyway, very long time ago, long before gray hair and glasses. And I got to watch these people, not only hear their stories, but I got to go to meetings with them. I got to eat meals with them. I got to watch the way they interacted with their families. And when I left Crested Butte, I finally knew what it was I wanted to be when I grew up. I want the freedom that's offered me in Step 3. And the only place I know that I'm going to find that is in the Al-Anon program. I was so grateful by the end of that conference that there was such a thing as Al-Anon. And somehow I had stumbled into it. When I got to Al-Anon, I didn't have very many opinions. I always thought I liked country music because everybody I ever married liked country music. And I came to find out after I'd been in Al-Anon a while, I really don't like it all that much, But I didn't have very many strong opinions. He would say, "What do you want to do tonight?" And I'd go, I don't care, really. I'll go wherever you want to go, Just take me with you when you go. Don't leave me here. Today I have very strong opinions. That is neither good nor bad, it's different. And that's pretty much all we're offered here, is a chance for a different life, I have very strong opinions. One of the things I have a strong opinion about is people being called Al-Anon. If you want to watch the hair on my neck stand up, let there be a new drunk who comes in the room and people go, "Oh, look, there's John, the new drunk, and behind him is his little Al-Anon wife. And they're talking about this thing with a twitch that's sniffing along behind John." And they think she's an Al-Anon just because she's married to John. She is not an Al-Anon. She's an alligator. Al-Anon is not a program for people who need it. This planet reeks of people who could use this program. I think AA is full of people who could use this program. But it's hard to get to Al-Anon. It's harder to get to Al-Anon than it is to AA, I think. It's really hard to come and ask for help when there's nothing the matter with you. You got to be here a while to get something the matter with you. It's even harder to stay here, Statistics are for every alcoholic, there are 10 to 42 people directly affected. Not peripherally, directly affected. Which means that this meeting tonight could be 10 to 42 times bigger than the 8 o'clock. Do you think that's going to happen? Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Hard to get here, harder to stay. The few of us who get here are looking for relief. We sit around our meetings, and, in my group, we could, and you hear this thing. Al-Anon is we're often accused of doing the Al-Anon waltz. They say the only steps we work are 1, 2, 12, 1, 2, 12, 1, 2, 12. I see what the problem is. I got the answer. Let me tell you about it. And all that other stuff in the middle is like filler, If you want to watch an Al-Anon room empty, start talking about Step 3. People start looking at their watches, got someplace to be. People get real nervous. Because when we get to step 3, we start talking about your life's going to change. Your life will change if you do step 3. If you make that decision, you really don't have to do anything except make the decision. Your life is going to change. And we're a room full of folks who go, oh, wait. There's been a little miscommunication here. Did you think I wanted, like, my life? Oh, no. No. I wasn't talking about my life. We sing the Al-Anon chorus. You know, we say, it's not that bad. You see, I was thinking about his life changing. That's what I was thinking about. We're like people in a lake of liquid manure up to about here. And it's ours. It's not particularly pleasant, but it's familiar. It's warm, you know, and we know how it got there. And it's been there a long time, you know. It's kind of still if you don't move much. It's just still. And we call that our comfort zone. And a boat comes along, and there are these people in the boat, and they say, you know what? You don't have to live down there if you don't want to. I had a sponsor one time. She asked me how I was. This was years ago. I'm happy to report. And I said, well, under the conditions, I'm pretty good. And she said, what are you doing under there? Anyway, they say, we can show you a way out of that mess. You can come up here and live. You don't have to live down there. And we go, oh, no, really. It's not that bad. I just want you to keep that guy over there from making waves. And that's because the only thing that guy over there can do is kick up my stuff, you know. We don't want to do change, and that's what step 3 offers us, is a changed life. Al-Anon, so anyway, Al-Anon's not a program for people who need it. Al-Anon's not even a program for people who want it. Those people who show up at our meetings. And they're either drawn by the laughter or they're repulsed by the laughter. I personally was drawn to the laughter. It had been a long time since I'd heard somebody laugh. And the first time I heard myself laugh, I looked around to see who was making the noise. That sound had not come from me in a long time. But there are some newcomers who come to our meetings and we start laughing and they leave. Because alcoholism isn't funny. It isn't funny. I remember one time when I'd been in the program a number of years and my daughter was in the height of her alcoholism and she was very hungover one Saturday morning, and I kind of liked it. I thought it was kind of cool the way she whipped through the house. I was looking at the consequences of her behavior, and I really kind of liked that, you know. I had nothing to do with it. She had done that all by herself. I thought it was kind of cool. And my mother was spending the weekend with us, and she was furious at me. She would say, that is not the right attitude. This is serious. That's where I got it from. Oh, yeah, that's right. This is serious, you know. You got to serious up, man, you know. And when you live in alcoholism, somebody's got to be serious about it, you know. It's one of the crosses we bear. While they're out partying on, man, we are serious about it. At our little group, at my group, the Addison Al-Anon family group, when we first formed, we're there at the request of the AAs. They said someone had a resentment in a coffee pot, and they said they wanted to start a new club. But they didn't want to start it without Al-Anon. They knew they'd be stronger if they had an Al-Anon club with them. So they asked a couple of us if we would form a new Al-Anon. And we met for a while and got to where we had a number of people in there, and we would laugh. One time they came over and asked us to be quiet. We were disturbing their meeting. I love that. One time, the second the meeting was open, the doors flew open and there were alcoholics standing on the other side of it, and they were furious. They said, what's so funny in here? They thought we were laughing at them. One of ours said, we don't think you're that funny. Al-Anon is really only a program for people who are willing to work at it because it requires effort, consistent effort. I'm not an Al-Anon because of the people I love. I'm one of 9 living children. But when I was new in Al-Anon, they told me that I had to quit pronouncing people as alcoholic. I'm very, very, very good at it. It could actually be a career for me, I believe, if I'd like to. If I love you, it is generally the kiss of death. It generally means if you don't have a program, you need one. But they said I had to quit pronouncing people as alcoholic. They said, however, if he walks like a duck and swims like a duck and quacks like a duck, you need to treat him like a duck. Other people have dictated reality to you your whole life, and it's time you started making your own life. I grew up in the sound of quacking. I apparently am not comfortable unless I hear quacking. If it gets too quiet, I go looking for more quacking. I have a number of brothers and sisters who quack. I'll swear I've heard my parents quack, and my grandparents quack. I married a number of people who quack. My daughter quacks. I worked for a guy who quacked in his office for 13 years, and none of them are the reason I'm an Al-Anon. They are what got me here. What got me here was the first part of the first step, and what's kept me here is the second part of the first step, the unmanageability of my own life. I'm not an Al-Anon because of them. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a 12-step recovery program that I practice like my life depends on it. I am convinced today of the fatal nature of my disease. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a committed meeting that I go to every week like a doctor's appointment. If you want to find me, you come Monday night at 6:15 to the Addison Al-Anon family group meeting, and that's where I'll be. And when I go to that meeting, they go, "Oh, Ellen, there you are. Oh, can I have a hug? Will you sit next to me?" You know, I probably saw him for breakfast on Saturday. But it's always like touching base when we see each other. It's one of the reasons I love coming to these conferences, because I watch you all do that all down in the halls. And I watch you do it in this room. You're so glad to see each other. It's like a reunion. It's like seeing your family, even if you've never seen each other before. I love that. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a sponsor who knows everything there is to know about me. And I use her. I call her. I talk to her. I had a sponsor for nearly 20 years who died almost 2 years ago. And I can tell you that she was the place where I found unconditional love. She was the place that I understood what it could be like to love your children and let them go. She was the place where I understood that you loved people and you trusted God and not the other way around. I will be eternally grateful that I had that woman for so long in my life. And she continues to be right behind my shoulder. I hear her on a daily basis speaking to me. I had another sponsor before the afternoon was out because I don't do well by myself. I'm an Al-Anon, and I'm so grateful there is such a thing as Al-Anon to be. My mama actually had diagnosed me when I was 17. She diagnosed me as boy crazy. And she sent me someplace where she thought I'd be safe. She sent me to Lubbock, Texas. I knew Lita would like that. That's where she sent me. Do you know where the very first Al-Anon meeting in the entire state of Texas was? Lubbock. It just reeks of them up there, man. It reeks of them. And it didn't take me long to find him, because, of course, I was looking for him. It only took 6 months, and I found him. He was married to somebody else and 60 pounds overweight and had 2 kids, but I thought, this is not an insurmountable problem for me. I actually don't like those easy ones at all, you know. Those ones are actually going to focus on you and give you attention. Get away from me. I want those ones you have to fight for, you know. Those ones you have to earn. Those ones you have to go through pain and agony to get. Your share of the suffering. And then when you get them, ta-da! You have your trophy. Oh, lucky, lucky us, right? A year later, we had shed the wife, the 2 kids, and the 60 pounds, and I had my trophy. Oh, lucky, lucky me. I'd been in Al-Anon a very short time when I realized that this man was not drinking when I married him. Now, in retrospect, I find that very bizarre. I grew up in a family of heavy drinkers. I grew up in a family that acted as if there was something the matter with people who don't drink. Now, I have to tell you that part of my problem is selective hearing. I tend to hear what I want to hear, which may be what you said, and it may have nothing to do with what you said. I just make stuff up, and I swear that that's what I heard. So I'm telling you that this is what I thought I heard my family say, although I can almost promise you they never said that. What I think I heard them say was, stay away from people who don't drink. They are fanatics. They could even be Baptists. I'm pretty sure that's not what they said, but that's what I heard. So the fact that I would get involved with someone who wasn't drinking is pretty bizarre. Now, I have to report to you that by the time we married, he was drinking. I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, and I can't control it. Well, we were married 6 months when he hit me the first time, and he was drunk every time he hit me. I didn't grow up in a family where adults hit each other, so the reaction I had to that was not anything anybody taught me. I came up with it all by myself. And my fabulous solution-oriented brain. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember standing there thinking after he hit me, now this won't do. This won't do. I have got to find a way to let him know this is not acceptable. And I'm thinking, never a good sign. Thinking, what will I do so he'll know this is not acceptable? The solution I came up with was to double dog dare him to do it again. Well, I'd been an Al-Anon a while before I realized that was a touch of insanity on my part. And it didn't take any more insanity on his part to hit me the second time than it did the first time. For some time, I don't know how long, but for some time I volunteered for that abuse by continuing to double dog dare him to do it again. At some point I crossed the line and I went from the volunteer to the victim. And I don't know when it happened, but I know today, after doing the steps umpty-ump times, I know how it happened. Every time he hit me and I believed what he said, which was if I hadn't done what I did, he wouldn't have to do what he did. Every time he hit me and I believed what he said, which was I deserve that and more. Every time he hit me and I believed what he said, which was I was an unlovable person. I was a deplorable person. But he said it in much worse words. There was a whole little string of them that went with that I can hear in my head to this day. Every time I got up the next morning and I looked in the mirror at a black eye or a swollen nose or a cut lip and I said to myself, it's not that bad. I'll just stay home a couple of days and nobody will notice. Every time that happened, a piece of me left. And then another piece, and then another piece, and then another piece, until finally there wasn't enough of me left who could stand up and say, you can't treat me like that. I don't deserve to be treated like that. Gosh, I'm a precious child of God. What happened was 9 years later, because I'm a sticker, and I make my bed, and apparently I will damn near die in it. 9 years later, somebody came along who said, you don't have to live like that, and I love you. The magic words. I love you. When I came to Al-Anon, on my desk at work was a sign that said, Wonder Woman works here. If you have never had an alligator working for you, that's probably why your business failed. We are dynamite in our diseasiness. We will come in early. We will stay late. We will work through lunch. We'll take it home on the weekend. We can do it all by ourselves. And we would really prefer that, actually, to do it all by ourselves. I created a place for myself at work that was an Ellen-sized hole so they could not do without me. I was needed. I was necessary. And I always thought it was because I was so talented. I came to Al-Anon and my sponsor started telling me I had to chase my fears. She would say, chase your base fear to the end. I remember the first time I had the courage to call her and say, I'm afraid. It took me a long time to be willing to that. I called her and I said, I'm afraid. And she said, oh, you're afraid. Good. Good? Good. Step one. I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? I don't know. All I know is I'm afraid. And she always said, yes, you do know, and I'll stay with you while we figure it out. And I finally could get to, I'm afraid he's going to leave me. Fear of abandonment. Yes, that's it. Oh, she says, fear of abandonment. Oh, pretty scary. Well, what happens if he leaves you? You mean there's more? Oh, there's always something underneath it. What's underneath that? Oh, my gosh, well, let's see. Oh, my gosh, if he leaves me, I'm here by myself. That's it. I'm afraid of being by myself. That's what it is. I'm afraid of abandoning myself. Yes. She says, oh, so you're by yourself. Oh. Now what's going to happen? Oh, my God, you mean there's more? There's always more. Get down to my base fear is that I'm going to be left in my own care, and I'm not enough to take care of me. And if I'm not enough to take care of me, I'm going to die. which is why my dependency on him always turned out to be life and death. Because if he's not here, I'll die, is how it felt. Now, you know, I'm so glad we close the doors when I say those sort of things, because I've been talking places and the doors are open, and I see people walking by, listening to me talk, and they come back and they look in, and I can almost see them going, 911, 911. There's a crazy person loose in there. But you understand what I'm talking about. You got it. Well, when someone said, I love you to me, what I heard was, I will take care of you. So when he said, I love you, I thought that was it. Now there was someone who was going to take care of me. And I always dated men, boys and then men, with this, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, you're kind of cute. Love you, love you, love you. You really are cute. No, I don't need you anymore. Hello, 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 hello. Never let go of one until you had a firm grip on the other one, you know. And here came number 2. I'll just number them for you. It's simpler that way. He was, if I had made a list, he met the list. He was everything on the list. He was the right height, right coloring, right age, right income, right job, right education, right family, right everything. He was absolutely adorable. Perfect! You would have loved him. Well, he did have one tiny little flaw. He didn't come home nights. But I'm thinking, you know, a couple of home-cooked meals and a little, you know, and I got him. I don't know how you mark your territory, but that's how I mark mine. And it worked before, I thought. There's no reason why it wouldn't work this time. So I got him because I'm like the Mounties. Always get my man. And I got him, and it seemed for about a year that things were rocking on. I was doing it just right because he always came home. And I was pretty sure that me doing it right was the reason he was coming home. What I didn't know was that I was married to a bar drinker. And I don't know why this was such a difficult concept for me to understand, but I'd been an Al-Anon a good while before I understood what bar drinker really means. They drink in the bar. You would think that would be fairly simple, but it was so complicated for my brain. That's about them. That's the difficulty I had. That's about them and where they're comfortable. And he was a bar drinker. And the night came that he didn't come home. I lay on the floor of the bathroom and I cried because I was pretty sure he'd seen the 2 pounds I gained, and that's why he didn't love me anymore, and that's why he wasn't coming home. And then I decided, oh, stupid me, I know what the problem is. This morning, when he said, what's for dinner, I said, roast beef. Idiot! I'm never going to say that again. Everybody knows that pork chops are his favorite thing. From now on, whenever he asks what's for dinner, I'm always going to say pork chops, and then he'll come home. Then I decided what I needed to do was I needed to go sit out on the sofa and wait. Now, if you are training for Al-Anon, you must go through graduate waiting. And the way that you know you're in graduate waiting is if when you are waiting you can do nothing else. You can't talk on the phone. You can't watch TV. You can't cook a meal. You can't read a book. The children would come up and they'd go, Mom, and I'd go, can't talk to you, I'm waiting. And that's because while you're waiting, you're listening. And you're listening for the sound of those tires. There are 40 bazillion other tires on the planet. Those do not matter. All that matters are the sound of those tires. And when I would hear his tires, I had a physical reaction. Everything in me went, ah. It's like, you know, I've heard alcoholics talk about what it feels like when a drink goes down. That's the way I felt when I heard the sound of his tires. I would go, ah, he's here. Of course, my next thought may be, I'm going to kill him when he walks in the door. But my first thought is, ah. So I'm sitting on the sofa waiting, and then I decided if I could see his truck, I'd feel better. So I went over to press my little nose to the window so I could watch for his truck. These are not wrinkles, these are Venetian fly marks. We lived at the corner of LBJ Freeway and Midway Road in Dallas, Texas, which is a fairly busy intersection. But if you're in graduate waiting, you just watch faster when they go by. And then I decided, in that wonderful solution place again, I decided that I knew what had happened to him. So, I don't know. This is the kind of, you know, I don't know why I feel like I have to share this so much, but here you go. This is what happened. In my head, I decided that what had happened to him was, I don't know, but for some reason he decided to go drive his car out in the country. I don't know why. He just decided to. And he's driving his car out there in the country, and then all of a sudden, his car blows up
for no reason at all, and it blows his body into this ditch by the side of the road, and he's bleeding, and he's dying, but he's not quite dead yet. And with his dying breath, he's calling me, and he's saying, Ellen, Ellen, I love you. And now wild animals are coming and tearing off his body parts and strewing him in the forest, and it'll be 7 years before we can identify the body. Oh, yeah, that's what I do in my head. I called that love. That isn't love, in case you wonder. No, that's not it. That's obsession. And the way you know it's obsession, if in your mind somebody dies. That's obsession. That's what we do. We take it to that. Well, he came home. And I've discovered that 99 times out of 100, they come home. It could be that day or the next week or 3 years later, but they come home. And I met him at the door like a 3-year-old who's been crying all afternoon, and you've said, stop it. I was at that place, you know, the big round red eyes and snot slinging everywhere, you know. And I think about that, and I think no wonder he drank. You know, if that's waiting for me, I'll always have another. But I met him at the door, and I asked him the second stupidest question we ever... The stupidest, of course, is, have you been drinking? But the second stupidest is, where have you been? Because really and truly, in my brain, the only acceptable answer was in a ditch bleeding. Anything else was going to hurt my feelings or make me mad. And he looked at me and he went, oh, my God, what happened to you? You knew where I was. And I knew where he was. He only went 3 places. He was either at work, at home, or in the trap room drinking. But I have the ability to hold opposing thoughts in my head, and they never touch. And the 2 thoughts I had were, he loves me more than anything in the world, and he's in the trap room drinking. And if this first one is true, how can the second one be true? It can't be. My life hung on, he loves me more than anything in the world. And in my diseasiness, I would rather wish him dead than believe that he didn't love me more than anything in the world. And he said, you worked yourself up into quite a little state, Missy. I think you're crazy. I think you're crazy as your mother. And he said, I don't know why I stay married to you. And I went, oh. I'm so sorry. What's the matter with this picture? He's 3 hours late and drunk, and I'm the one standing there apologizing. I have an addiction to mind-altering men. They're the ones who, wittingly or unwittingly, say things like, isn't the sky a lovely shade of brown? And I go, brown? Oh, why, yes, I believe I see that brown. That's how we get the twitch. So we rocked on, and I was working at a place, there was a parent at the school where I worked who was a very angry woman, and I was always afraid of her. For a long time, I thought I was afraid of angry people because they reminded me of alcoholics, because they looked out of control when they were angry. What I've come to discover is that I wasn't afraid of her anger, I was afraid of mine. We tend to come to Al-Anon one of 2 ways. We come hurt or we come angry. If you come hurt, eventually you have to learn to deal with your anger. If you come angry, eventually you have to learn to deal with your hurt. And I could not allow myself to be angry because it felt like there was such rage underneath that all. She was angry, and she called me one day in tears. Now, if you want to watch an alligator in action, put her around somebody who's crying. All the bells and whistles, all the alarms go off. The primary Al-Anon illusion is when you're okay, then I'll be okay. And I have to do everything I can do to make you okay. I will lie, I will cheat, I will steal. I will go places I don't want to go with people I don't want to be with. I'll stay home when I'm hungry, and I'll eat when I'm not. I'll sit up all night with your sick mother when I don't like sick people, and I sure don't like your mother. It looks very loving and kind on the outside, and it's the most self-centered behavior on the planet. I don't do it because I care about you. I don't do it because I want to do something nice. I do it because I need you to have a special reaction for me. So then I'll be okay. So then I'll be enough. We have a deal in the Al-Anon group where I go, where if someone starts crying in an Al-Anon meeting, we don't shove the Kleenexes at them. It's a very subtle way to tell somebody your tears are making me uncomfortable. Stop crying. Maybe the greatest thing we do for each other in Al-Anon is we attend each other's pain. We don't tell each other to wipe that look off your face, and then you can come out with the rest of us. When you get a better attitude, Missy, you can come out of your room. If I wasn't such a good actress, I'd still be living in my room. You know? My attitude really didn't change much. We don't shove the Kleenexes at them. And when somebody's crying in a meeting, we let them cry. We don't put our hands on them and pat them and tell them everything's going to be okay. Because you know what? I'm up here to tell you what I used to be like and what happened and what I'm like today. I'm not up here to tell you what it used to be like and what happened and what it's like today. Because there's still plenty of times today when it sucks. What's different is my response. What's different is me. So we don't tell people it's going to be okay. We sit next to them and we say, whatever you got to deal with, you won't have to do it by yourself. We'll be here with you. Well, now here was somebody crying on the phone to me, and I'm still an alligator, and all my alarms went off. And she said, my husband's in a 12-step recovery program for alcoholism, and because of his recovery, we're going to pay you all back all the money we owe you, but it's going to take a long time. And I go, and I say, I understand how you feel because my husband drinks too much too. Now, the problem was not his drinking. The problem was he didn't come home nights. But I wasn't going to tell people that because I thought that was about me. Of course, I thought everything was about me, but I thought that was about me. If I was a better wife, he'd be home. So I didn't tell her that. What I didn't know is I was talking to somebody who's new in Al-Anon, and we're deadly when we're new. We know all the answers. We're not sure about the questions, but we got all the answers, and we want to share them with you. She was perfect for me. She called me ever so often, and inevitably it was the morning after one of those nights. And she offered me Al-Anon, and I had 1,000 reasons why I couldn't go to a place where I had to admit that I couldn't be a good wife, because it's what I always wanted to be. And finally, I ended up in a doctor's office one night when all I could do was cry. Deciding what shoes to put on in the morning was a major decision. I would sit on the edge of my bed and cry. And I think if there had been a clinical test for depression back there, I'd have tested positive. And finally, the doctor said to me, I don't have your answers, and the only people who might are the Al-Anons. And it was like I was coming out of the jungle with an enemy. Then I called her, and I said I was ready to go, and she took me to my first meeting. She took me to my first 6 meetings because she didn't trust me to go by myself, because I had already told her a number of stories. And on the 7th meeting, I took myself. And you know what it's like when someone else is taking you, and now it's your first time, to drive there. It's like I'd never been there before. And this was a club where you had to climb up a whole flight of stairs to get up to where the club was. And then there was a sign up there that said, only 12 more steps, which I always thought was kind of bizarre. And for some reason, AA always finds it necessary to put their sickest people at the door. I don't know why. But this guy was at the door, and he was like, welcome to AA, Oh, I'm not looking for AA. I'm really looking for Al-Anon. And he goes, oh. Al-Anon. Oh. You have to go through the big room where the really sick people are. To the little room in the back where the tables don't exactly match because we give them our hand-me-down tables. They're purse-lipped and blue-haired. Those are the Al-Anons. Yeah, these are the people I want to spend the rest of my life with. Well, you know what? I landed in a nest of winners. The first meeting I went to in Al-Anon was an Al-Anon Big Book study. They were reading the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, not in the direction of how it applied to their husbands or whoever was in the other room, but how it applied to them. I had been in this program a long, long time and done some traveling around before I realized that doesn't happen everywhere. But Al-Anons don't read the Big Book everywhere. It's my opinion. But that's what you're in here to hear tonight, is my opinion. I think it's insane to attempt to work this program without the directions. And the directions are in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Everything we write about it is third hand. The directions are in the Big Book. Now, I had to read it 42 times before I quit highlighting parts for my mother and turning down corners for him. But on like the 42nd time in there, I went, oh, this is me. The only thing I don't have is the physical reaction to that drug. Everything else in that book is me. They say stick with the winners. There's a little tiny problem. They don't wear name tags. Hi, I'm a winner. Except on weekends like this. Except on weekends like this. The winners are the people who do more than go to one meeting a week. The winners are the people who want everything this program has to offer them. They are the people who go to open AA meetings. You know what? I'm so grateful that the alcoholics have a time when they'll let us come sit in there and listen. When my alcoholic, I don't like that term, but I just want to refer to this without numbering again. When my alcoholics spoke, all I could hear was my own pain. But when somebody was up here that I was not emotionally involved with, I started to be able to see the difference between the person and the disease. And I started to be able to allow myself to love him again. The winners are the ones who go to birthdays and anniversaries and conferences, which is another reason I love to be here with you this weekend and just sit with you and let some of your enthusiasm rub off on me. I landed in a nest of folks who went to every conference there was to go to, and I thought that's what you did. I thought like step 1/2 was get in the car, because that's what they said. Get in the car. We're going. We're going to the Brazos Riverside. We're going to the state conference. We're going here. We're going there. Get in the car. And I went. And my husband, after a while, he adjusted to it, and he was so grateful I had a place to go, I got a call one Monday morning from a lady who said, I want to talk to you. Ooh, she was mad. I want to talk to you. Your husband has been here with my husband all weekend long drinking. Then I said to him, how can you do this to your wife? How can she put up with this kind of behavior? He said you'd found a way and I should call you. He was 12-stepping for Al-Anon out there, I'm not supposed to cause a crisis or prevent a crisis and let him do his thing. I'd been in Al-Anon almost 3 years when I found out my husband was having an affair. The interesting thing was I knew he went out. He was only coming home like 8 or 9 times a month, but I really, I knew he did drugs and he drank and he didn't come home nights and he gambled, but I always thought he was faithful. When I found out he was having an affair, I was devastated. I called my sponsor. She said it has nothing to do with you. He has a great big hole inside himself, and he's throwing everything he can find in the hole. He's throwing gambling and drinking and drugs, and now he's going to try other women. But it's a God-sized hole, and he can't fill it up. And it's one thing to hear it. It took me a long time to understand that it didn't have anything to do with me. The biggest impact that had on me was it made me be honest for the first time about what got me into Al-Anon. I said I was here because of his unacceptable behavior. The truth is, I was here because of my own unacceptable behavior. I was married to the man of my dreams, and I was having an affair. And it wasn't my first one. It wasn't my last one either, but it was real close to my last one. You have to go for progress, not perfection, Time and hormones takes care of a lot of stuff, after a while. And I didn't want to have an affair. I didn't want to have an affair the first time it happened. And when this guy, this one that I was currently involved with, had said to me, I want to sleep with you, my first thought in my brain was, not again. I don't want to do this. I hate how I feel when I do this. I don't want to do this. But the word no never left my lips. No has been the hardest word for me to learn how to say. And my sponsor said to me, this is the way she trained me. She said, baby, if you can't say no, can you at least say not now? I think a not now is that space just after step 7. When you've turned it over to God and you've said, I'm not interested in those old way of doing things anymore. So when the old feelings come up, I have a chance to react to them like I used to, or to respond from a new place. And sometimes the best I can do is not now. I won't scream at them, not now. But maybe later I'll scream at them, not now. And I had to do an inventory on that, and I came up with the idea that I had turned into somebody I didn't know, somebody I didn't like, and somebody I couldn't trust. We talk about trust a lot in Al-Anon. That's a bottom line issue for a lot of us. And the person I don't trust the most is me. I'm the one who doesn't take care of me. I'm the one who lets me down. I'm the one who steps over my own boundaries. I'm the one who does that. We got to get going. Okay. Well, Shortly after that, we separated. That's the rule in alcoholic homes. Alcoholism is a deadly disease. It kills sweet romance. It kills relationships. It kills the people who have it, and it kills the people who love them. Do you know who uses the insurance first in an alcoholic home? The non-alcoholic. Alcoholics have blessed moments of blackout. Not us. We're present. Intense. We were blessed with a newcomer today, Joanne and me, that we got to spend time with, and she said that she finally had decided that she needed to get out of the alcoholic situation because she was getting physically ill, and that's what happens to us. We get a number of stress-related diseases. What I developed that year was breast cancer. I was 38 years old. There's no history of it in my family. I'm the first, and so far the only, to have developed breast cancer. If you got to give up a body part, go for boob. Ain't a big deal. You can do anything with one that you do with two. Pretty much all it's good for is holding up clothes at my age anyway, you know, and you can... Although a dear alcoholic friend of mine the other day said, I thought of two more things boobs are good for. He said they keep crumbs from getting into your lap, and it gives men a place to look so they don't have to look at your eyes. He's so funny. Anyway, boob was not a big deal. Hair was a big deal because I got to do all of cancer. You know, we don't do things part way. No. Do it all. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, the whole thing. And the prognosis was that if there were 100 women in the room with the same prognosis as me, in another 5 years, 60 would be left and 40 of them would be dead. It really didn't look very good. And the doctor said, we'll do everything we can, but I am not hopeful. And it became critical to me to find out why those 60 lived and those 40 died. You know, there are people in this world, I suspect, who can live life without written directions. I am not one of them. I'm so grateful I came to the place where the written directions were on the wall, where they're on every wall, and they're the same written directions everywhere you go. The only difference between Al-Anon steps and AA steps is the 12th step. Al-Anons are encouraged to carry the message to others. We are not encouraged to carry the message to alcoholics. Carrying messages to alcoholics is how we got here. I am so grateful to have those steps. Now, I've hung my life on a couple of lines out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of them is nothing but nothing happens by accident in God's world. Oh, what a relief. Oh, what a relief. And the second one is the last column of that fourth step that basically says, and what was your part? You know, for so much of my life, I thought I didn't have a part in a lot of what happened in my life. I was just the victim, the innocent victim. If you look at that fourth step, it lets you know that there are no places in your life where you don't have a part. You have a part in everything, which actually was so freeing to find out. I have a part in everything that happens. I do. And my sponsor had finally convinced me that the only thing I'm responsible for is my part. I got in a step study, and I did an inventory on the time the tumor was growing, and I wanted to know what my part was. And honestly, I wanted to know what my part was because I wanted to quit doing it so I could live. I cannot tell you why I'm still here. And every time I see my doctor, which is twice a year, he looks at me and he goes, how long has it been, honey? I think he's reminding me more than he's reminding them, but I don't forget it a single moment. What I came up with at the end of that inventory was that basically, when I live in active alcoholism, I break out in malignancies. There are studies that say that cancer is a stress-related disease, but no one could tell me why I had cancer. It's sort of self-diagnosed like alcoholism is. And the diagnosis I came up with for myself was the cancer was a stress-caused disease. And I don't believe there's anything more stressful than living in active alcoholism. For the first time I said, you cannot stay here. If you cannot stay sober, you can't stay here. And I meant it because I knew my life was on the line. And that was the hardest thing I let go of that year was him because he had to leave. He couldn't stay sober and he left. And as far as I know, he's still drinking. If you ask him why he left, he would tell you it was that crazy daughter of mine that anyone who had to live with that little witch would drink to. I had two children, a hot pink neon orange daughter who was out there, and a beige navy blue son who was home disappearing moment by moment by moment. You saw him less and less.
He slept more during the day and stayed awake more at night. He stayed in his room. And those were my two children. And I knew she was nuts. I adored her for one thing. Sign number one. And she was crazy. She came home one Saturday morning, just to give you an idea. And she said she should have been home Friday night. Now, do you see the pattern in my life? She came home Friday morning. Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry you, really. I didn't. We were outside. We were driving down the freeway last night. We were minding our own business while we weren't bothering anybody, really, Mom. This car came from nowhere, and it tried to shove us off the road. Oh, it was so scary, Mom. It was really terrifying. And the police came, and they said it wasn't our fault or anything, Mom. And of course, by then I'm like, are you okay? Is everybody okay? And she said, yes, I'm okay, but I'm kind of tired. I think I'll go to my room. And I'm in the living room doing this. Because that's what we do. Well, they called from school one day and they said there's something the matter with your daughter. Duh. And they said, we're going to send her someplace for an evaluation. Oh. 2 days later, the guy at the treatment center said, Miss Davis, I hate to tell you this, but we really do believe your daughter's alcoholic. And I said, yes. And he said, we've not had a lot of mothers react like that. And I'm like, yay, it's alcoholism, yay! I thought she was crazy. That's an Al-Anon disease. There's no sign she'll ever get any help, but alcoholism, yes! And she's 17. I can make her do stuff, So I took her a place that would force feed her the steps because that's the only thing I knew that would work. I am so grateful to the alcoholics in this room. I'm so grateful to you everywhere. I'm so grateful that you're not in this for some kind of chic recovery rate, And, the statistics are that for the young people, 80% of them have to go back out because they're not finished. And that could be pretty depressing if you were doing a tally of how many you had fixed. My daughter was one of those. She stayed sober about a year and a half, and she went back out there, and she spent a number of years, I don't know where, and I don't want to know where. I finally learned in Al-Anon that you don't need to go looking for trouble. It's perfectly capable of making the entire journey to you by itself if it needs to be there. I don't know where she was. She did call me one night and say she had to have $300 by the morning or else, and I didn't have $300 to give her. She came back into AA on January 29th of 1990. And I had nothing to do with it, and you had everything to do with it. Because when she came, you didn't treat her like she was too young. And you didn't treat her like she hadn't suffered long enough. And you didn't treat her like, because she did drugs, it somehow negated her alcoholism. She told me the other day, she said, Mom, I got sober before it was ever legal for me to drink. The reason I did drugs was because it was easier to get. The best thing I ever did for her was get a program, get a life, and get out of her way. And let her do what she needed to do. She is a fine, upstanding member of Alcoholics Anonymous today, and that's her story, and that's her miracle. She graduated about 5 years ago from the University of California at Hayward with a degree in criminal justice, which I just find hysterical. She did time in every little jail in the Metroplex, and she's an astounding woman. She's another example of if God had given me the daughter I designed, how short I would have sold her. She is an amazing woman. About the time during her brief sobriety, the first time she was hanging out in slippery places with slippery people, and I told her she couldn't stay with me if she was going to do that. And for the first time, I knew I was going to follow through on that. The morning that she was to leave, she announced that I was going to be a grandmother, and I thought that changed things. That she would have to stay, and I'd have to take care of her, and then I'd die, because it felt like if she drinks, I'll die. That's how it felt. And I called my sponsor, and I turned myself in, and I told her what was happening, and she said, do you want her to stay? I said, I don't want her to stay, and I feel terrible about that. Shouldn't I want her to stay? She said, no. She said, there's only so many bad feelings, and it's to each situation. These are her bad feelings. Let her have them. And if you don't want her to stay, I'll stay on the phone while you tell her. And I quit hurting. I thought the pain was in letting go of her. The pain was in holding on when it was time to let go of her. And I let her go. And we went through a very interesting fall where she went around telling people what I was doing to her, and I went around telling people what she was doing to me. My friend Buddy Ross was taping a conference, and I went to see Buddy, and I said, Buddy, you know what she's done now? She's pregnant at me. God loved Buddy so. Buddy said, and he was so kind. He said, boy, I understand how you feel. He said, our son's girlfriend had a baby out of wedlock, and that child has been the light of our lives. You know, it never occurred to me I might like it. Al-Anon has allowed me to change my mind. Thank you, God. I love babies, and until recently I'd never had enough of them. And God was offering me a baby. And you know, I think the sanity offered us in step 2 may be nothing short of paradise. But the reason I don't get paradise is because I say, yeah, but. That's the biggest stumbling block in my recovery is yeah, but. My journey in Al-Anon has been the journey from yeah, but to thank you. And it's a real short journey a lot of times. A real short journey. And I decided I'd say thank you for this baby. And a couple of weeks later, my daughter called, Mom, the blue blankets you're knitting, knit faster. Had a sonogram today, twin boys. Oh, yeah. If one is good, 2 is better. My 18-year-old daughter's having twins. Has every intention of raising them. Long story. But as you see, I don't know any short stories. Gary knows I don't know any. I'm going fast, Gary. I really am. So anyway. Al-Anons fall in love with people's potential. And the fact is, we really know who you are under all that junk. And if you just listen to us, we could draw it out. But you won't listen. I had fallen in love with heartbeats. I had heard the baby's heartbeats, and I was in love before they were born. When they were 3 weeks old, the littlest twin went into heart failure, and my daughter didn't know what to do. And we got it taken care of, and we got him squared away. And when they were 5 weeks old, she said, I can't do this anymore, and if you want him, you can have him. I didn't know I didn't know. I didn't know if I wanted to keep him or not. Wanted to keep him. Did a lot of writing, did a lot of praying, did a lot of talking, did a lot of my sponsor. And she had told me for forever that God wants for me what I want for me in my heart of hearts. You know, Al-Anons are so funny. What if I pick the wrong thing? What if there's something better? Oh, dear, I don't know. Maybe I won't pick this. If you want to watch something painful, watch a group of Al-Anons try to decide where to go for lunch. Oh, I don't care. What do you want to? Thank God there are double winners, who come along and go, Mexican food, we're going for Mexican food. Okay, Mexican food, that's what I want to My sponsor said that God wants for me what I want for me in my heart of hearts, and my job is walking in the direction of my dreams, and where I get is God's deal. And God's promise to me is always this or something better. God is not a terrorist waiting around the corner to test my patience. God loves me and wants what's best for me. And I decided that I didn't want to be their mother to the children of 2 addicts, and I don't like the odds that I'm through raising children. But I wanted to be their grandmother. She moved out. I got a power of attorney, and I went to adoption agencies, and I said, I'm looking for a family that wants 2 babies and a grandmother. And somehow, it took months. They were almost 5 months old before we found them. And my precious son and I spent that summer with those 2 little babies by ourselves. And I don't know how we did it, but with God's help, we did it. And the boys, the twins, will be 15 years old next month. Oh, God, I'm so grateful they live with other people. They're going through what I thought they would be going through right about now. And their parents have, just, and I said, if they were going to be easy to raise, I'd have kept them. Every month I see them. We make a date. I sit down with their mom at the beginning of every year. We make dates, and I see them once every month, and I have the whole time of their lives. I've always been their grandmother. I'm still their grandmother, and they have a little baby sister who came with no grandmother. So not only did I not lose the boys, I got a granddaughter in the bargain. I cannot describe to you the relationship I have with that family, and it is nothing but God's grace that makes it work and keeps us together. We are folks who would not normally mix. About the time the boys left, I decided I was going to quit dating. It had occurred to me that in the process of doing an inventory that since I was 12, I've either been chasing after, catching, waiting for, going with, engaged to, married to, divorced from, engaged to, married to, divorced from, somebody. But there'd always been somebody. The big hole I walk with is right beside me. And I decided that I was never going to figure out who I was as long as I was connected, even emotionally, to somebody else. I'd like to tell you that the day I decided to quit dating, that I had to go out to the front steps and go, sorry, boys, I've sworn off. Apparently God decided the same time I did. And if you're not going to hang out with guys, it leaves you one other choice. Girls. I really don't like girls. They've always been sort of the competition. I'm not sure for what, but they feel like the competition. And I'm not a girly girl. I don't like to do girly girl things, man. I shop like a man. If you don't know what you want, don't go in there. If you do, go in, get it, kill it, take it home. If you have something to say to me on the phone, say it, and then hang up. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I look really good tonight. You will not see makeup on me again this weekend. Behind the podium, I'm the best example of Al-Anon I can be. I'm not a girly girl. And I would call up these girls and I'd say, okay, I'm going to the conference. I got a big old Suburban and I'd love for you to come go with me. And if you have to have 12 pairs of shoes for 3 days, I understand. I got room. Bring the shoes. Every time you have to pee, we'll stop the car. The only place you want to pee is McDonald's. Okay, we're going into McDonald's. And every time we pass a Walmart, we're going in. You know, I think there ought to be a neon red cross in the front of Walmart. Healing happens in the aisles of Walmart. I always wanted God to speak to me in thunder and lightning. Because in case you can't tell, drama is my life. I wanted thunder and lightning. And God said, you know what, Chickie, if I did that one more time, you'd miss the message and get hung up in the messenger. And I've discovered that God speaks to me in the language I understand best, and that's another woman. And somewhere in the process of those years I spent not dating, I made an amazing discovery about myself. I am enough for me. Nobody has to be added to make me okay. I'm enough. And when I need help, I know how to hold up my hand and ask for help, and I know who to ask. I'm enough for me. So then this guy asked me out. And I'd known him for a dozen years. He was not in the program. I knew him through work. He was interesting, but he wasn't exciting. And so when he asked me to dinner, I went, sure, I'll go. Of course, we're married now. And when we got married, everybody said, oh, look, you married a normal guy. Well, he's not a normal guy. He's about 70 pounds overweight. It's very obvious he has an obsession, and that's why I adore him like I do. And so 1994 was a hard year. I won't go into all the details, but what happened in 1994 was, it was a very hard year. I ended up starting over the steps with my sponsor, and she had me do step 1, and I said, we were at a conference, and I said, okay, I'd written it down, and I said, first thing I'm powerless over is his snoring. I adore him, but I wake up in the middle of the night thinking of stories I'm going to tell God about what happens to him after I've killed him. And then the second thing I turned over was his drinking. He was not an abusive drunk. He didn't stay out all night. What I turned over was the reaction I had when I would open the door at night when he came home and I'd go, hello? And if I smelled alcohol, my night went to hell in a handbasket. I wanted to know that other people could drink and I'd be okay. And that was what I was powerless over. And an hour later, he walked up to the podium, said he was an alcoholic, and he hadn't had a drink since then. The place went crazy. Because, of course, they knew him. I mean, if you're going to hang out with me, you're going to hang out with you. Because that's what I do. And he'd been hanging out with you guys. And people are crying and they're screaming, the people are applauding. And my best friend was behind me. She grabbed me by my shoulders and she went, oh, my God, you're a carrier. He's a delightful, remarkable man. And I am so grateful that we are going to spend the rest of our lives together. A couple of years ago, my son said, Mom, we're going to have a baby, and we want you to quit your job of 20 years and stay home and take care of this baby. I just thought that was amazing, that my children, who caught the brunt of my frustration and my anger, would want me to take care of their child. My daughter got pregnant shortly thereafter, married, and said, we're going to move home from California, and we want you to take care of our baby. And I told my husband, I said, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to take care of babies and just these would be my very own grandchildren. And he said, no, you can't because we need that income you have. Now, he made 5 times the amount of money I had, but we really needed that income I had. And I could hear a little financial insecurity there. So I went with that because he's my husband and that's what I had to go to. Then he heard a set of tapes by Clint H. And someone asked Clint in the tapes, they said, how much money would you have to have so you wouldn't feel financially insecure? And Clint said, well, I guess just enough money so I wouldn't have to trust God. And when Dick heard that, he said, okay, if you want to stay home, you can stay home. The day the first child came to me, she was almost 5 months old. She was, as a matter of fact, to the day, the same age the twins were the day we gave them up. No mistakes in God's world. That was in August. The next baby was born in December, and I got him when he was 3 weeks old. The next baby was born 15 months later, and I got her when she was 3 weeks old. The next baby was born 7 months after that. My son has 2 daughters. My daughter has 2 sons. They had sense enough to have them in a 3-year period. So for the last 3 years, I've taken care of 4 children who are today 5, 5, 3, and 3. And I'm in heaven. I am in heaven. This is what I have always wanted to do. I have pictures, of course. They are the most precious people on the planet. Do you know that this is a job, and my kids pay me. This is a little business called Mom's Better Babies, a portable daycare for your priceless children. But the only children I'll take are my grandchildren, so don't ask. They pay me to sleep with the people I work with. How cool is that, you know? How cool is that? And I can dress like I want to dress. It is so cool. I absolutely love my life. I used to think that when I died and went to heaven, God was going to say, pull out the VCR and the tape, and I want to see how her husband and her children turned out. If they turned out to be fine, upstanding members of the community, she's earned her way into heaven and she can come in. I'm so grateful that you gave me the chance to find another God. You know, I tend to make up stories in my head and live in them when I don't know what's really going on. But my sponsor said this was a story I could keep, and I'll share it with you. I suspect that when this body of mine gets tired of doing whatever in the world it is we're doing here, and that little part of me that's always been God's goes to where God is, God's going to go, oh, Ellen, there you are. Why would God read me with any less love than you do? And he's going to say, oh, honey, you know what? Heaven's heaven when you're not here, but it's just not perfect without you. Welcome home. And he's going to say, you know what? I've been running a little experiment down there. Not really a test. Not something you could pass or fail. I just wanted to see how it would go. And I know you've been paying strict attention to what's going on. So let me ask you some things. First off, precious, did you have a good time? You know, there was nothing I did to torture you. There was nothing I did except to try to please you and make you happy. There was no reason for flowers to be different colors, except I thought it would make you smile. And I knew you'd love babies, so I put a lot of them in your life, and I hope you didn't miss them. And do you know, thanks to you, I'm going to be able to go, oh, yes, I had a wonderful time at your party, God. Thanks for asking me. And the second thing he's going to say is, were you Ellen? You know, you're the only one like that I made. I had things I needed you to do because my hands are too big. And I needed you to do that. For a person who spent so much of her life based on other people's lives, I thought that would be a hard question for me to answer. And for a number of years, when I did my 11th step inventory at night before I went to sleep, I had a little entry in there that said, today, Ellen. And I wrote down the thing I did that day that I knew was mine to do, that I knew God wanted me to do that day. After a while, I looked at that list and I realized that those were things you would have called service. This was mine to do tonight. You could have had another speaker and have been at least as happy, if not happier. But this was mine to do tonight. This is where God would have me be. And the last thing God's going to say is, baby, did you ever get the joke? You know, I got the joke the year of cancer. I got the joke the day that I stood at the back door of my house with all the hair gone from my body except the nerve endings that kind of blew around on my head, the little gray nerve endings that blew around on my head, and I had a little hat on so I wouldn't offend you when I went outside. And I had this hot pink neon orange daughter who was crazy. I had this beige and navy blue son who was disappearing. I had this alcoholic husband who would ask in the morning what's for dinner, and he might not come home for 3 more days. And I got ready to go someplace that day, and I looked down and realized that I'd lost eyebrows, eyelashes, hair, everything, except on my legs and under my arms. And I realized I was going to have to go back in and shave my legs. And I laughed. You know, I have spent so much of my life focused on what I thought I wasn't going to get or what I thought I was going to lose that I almost missed the part that was there. There's a guy in our group that says the glass isn't half full or half empty. Glass is too damn big. Bill Cosby says the glass is either half full or half empty, depending on whether you're drinking or pouring. And what you allow me to do when you allow me to tell you my story is you allow me to pour, so that when I leave you, my cup runneth over. And I thank you.